corporations might be scored, because they would, in terms of decision making, they could move forward development quite.
Yeah, I mean, we're open-minded once we get more detail on the thing to look at it and see what size of effect we might get.
And there was a particular element to the overall market that I wanted to get to with you. So in London in particular, £4 million a day is spent on temporary accommodation, which is private rented accommodation that local authorities lease. Is it possible for you to forecast and to model the impact of a reduction in that in terms of any positive growth, or is that...
So a reduction in which elements?
Temporary accommodation.
In temporary accommodation costs. So that's a
do you mean as a side effect of the planning reforms?
I take it it's not...
Yes, in the sense that we have an estimate of how much lower house prices, and therefore rents, are likely to be as a result of building the houses. Yes, it is. Now, because although it's quite a big impact on the number of new houses built, the impact on things like rents and house prices depends on how much you move the stock of housing. Yeah. And because obviously the flow of new house building is small relative to the stock, even though you have a material impact on house building, on the stock, even 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, it's not an enormous impact. Therefore, the house price and rent knock-on impact is pretty small. It builds up over time. I mean, it'll be bigger in 10 years than it is in 5 years, and it's bigger in 5 years than it is in 2 years.
But it would be fair to say that impact on rents, that's the closest that you would get to, and the cost of local authorities, the cost to local authorities isn't something that's at the moment played into your modelling.
I think it's too limited in an impact to have a sort of material effect over the forecast horizon, that element of it.
You need to have a very clear figure of social housing, presumably, in that, to be part of that.
I think you would. You'd need a very clear idea on that. Yeah.
And geographically.
Definitely geographically, yes. I mean, we've skewed our estimates about where the house building comes and what the size of the effect on the economy is. We haven't assumed that there's just going to be more house building evenly spread across the country, that there are incentives for it to be, there are stronger incentives in the areas where house prices are higher.
Yeah, okay.
At the southeast.
A bit short of time, so perhaps another couple of...
Yep.
So I just wanted to understand in detail with where we lost those 200,000 from the government's target, and you forecast 1.3 million.
I mean, lost in the sense that I think it's significant to a significant extent. It's about time lags, that we don't think there's likely to be any impact on the scale of house building, certainly not this year, and possibly not even for most of next year. Therefore, you don't build up to 300,000 houses built in the UK until year 5. You're short of that along the way. And that's the major reason why you don't get to the government's target. And you get closer to it by year 5, and we think that those effects are likely to be persistent. I mean, unless there's further changes in the planning system, and they'll last beyond year 5. And we come up with some estimates of where you get to beyond year 5.
Are you able to determine whether it's more in terms of land supply or the capacity in the sector, or is it an aggregate of those two factors? Because obviously you can move capacity in the construction sector more easily.
I mean, it's the effect of both things combined, in a sense that, you know, if you have more land but there isn't the capacity to build houses, that's what holds you back. If you've got the capacity to build houses but you just can't have the land with the permission, that's going to hold you back. In the very short term, the time lags are both about getting the permission and about building up capacity in the industry. I mean, once you look beyond a few years, even though there may be shortages at the moment of people in the construction sector with the relevant skills, you then start trying to address questions about apprenticeships and training people. And that's likely to be, I mean, if house builders believe that these are the new rules of the game, they're more likely to expect stronger demand in the future, more willing to take on apprenticeships and train more people, which they might not if there hadn't been the planning reforms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. I just wanted to go back, if I could, Mr. Hughes, to the issue of the released information about your forecast. When the final submission was sent out, about 102 officials, mostly officials from the Treasury, ministers, 6 special advisors, the head of the special advisors office, who may be a civil servant. I mean, some SPADs are civil servants technically, but I think they're a slightly different category, and some press officers were included in that list. But prior to the leak or release of information on the 11th of February, among the meetings you had 4 that included special advisors. Was that the same special advisor at every meeting, or was it a different mix of those 6 people?
I'm trying to think back. We had 2 meetings which included special advisors alongside officials, and then 2 meetings which were with special advisors and ministers. Yep. My recollection was it was all the same special advisor, but
it was one special advisor.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Are you able to tell us the name of that special advisor?
I think you could ask the Chancellor, who was in meetings with her.
And an email, just for record, an email went out on the 7th of February, which didn't actually copy in any special advisors. It's just differential. We've had 15 years of the OBR. There's never been a leak of information. And you're very clear it's not from your team.
I'm very confident.
We've obviously been asking the Treasury about this as well, just to get that on, helpful to have that clarified. And just to be clear that while we've been sitting here, the UK Statistics Authority and the Cabinet Office have announced a review led by Sir Robert Devereux of the UK Statistics Authority. So this is an issue that we are pursuing with our sister committee. And I think it's been a really useful session, so thank you very much for your time. In summary, we've heard that various Chancellors' decisions to leave themselves very little headroom means that much greater attention is paid to small changes in your forecast. We've heard, as we have heard from the Bank of England, that the uncertainty around the ONS data is affecting your forecast. So the review, I think, is welcome to us all. And we heard, of course, that a 50 basis point increase in interest rates was sufficient to use up the Chancellor's headroom. So we're working on quite small margins here. And also, an area of interest to us before this, and thank you for your answer, the Treasury missed the pre-agreed deadlines for submitting policy changes, which prevented you forecasting or including the changes in your forecasts. Even when these are clearer, we heard from Mr. Josephs that there are challenges in determining the impact because of the complexities of interactions with the welfare changes. So that's something to watch in future. But thank you very much indeed for your time. The transcript of this session will be available on the website uncorrected in the next couple of days. Thank you very much indeed. Order, order.